And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Today we're looking at Core Worlds Galactic Orders, which is an expansion for Core Worlds. Now this is a much bigger box than Core Worlds was, and that's because it's supposed to include everything from the original game and the expansion, although you could have done that in the expansion box. So I can only assume by this and by some of the things they say in the rules that they are planning multiple expansions that will all be able to fit into this box. Anyway, Core Worlds is a really fun deck building game about conquering different planets and expanding your empire. Let me show you how this expansion works. Alright, let's talk about this expansion. We'll start with the box. Now the box here comes with some cardboard dividers that can be placed in these slots, and then there is a bunch of dividers that the game comes with some cool artwork on them that you'll be able to place in between these to keep the cards separate from each other. It's not the most, I don't know, it's useful. Okay, it's good to have this here, I suppose, and have these divider cards and all. But I mean, with the advances that Thunderstone and other boxes, the Sentinels of the Multiverse box, that's the way a box should look. This one is not as good, but it's useful. And I'm going to bag everything anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But let's see what the expansion actually adds in terms of content. There's a lot of content that's included with the game. There's a whole pile of cards. There are these big cards that are included and a whole pile of tokens. So let's talk about each of these things, and the biggest change to the game are these. We have the Merchant Alliance, the Mystic Brotherhood, the Order of Knighthood, the Mining Coalition, the Science Guild, and the Galactic Senate. Now this is a pretty cool addition to the game. At the beginning of the game, each player gets a whole pile of tokens that match their faction. And during the course of the game, whenever you deploy or play a tactic card that has one of those symbols on it. So let's say, for example, I play Devotion to the Empire, and you can see that on Devotion to the Empire there's a little gun symbol. Well, then I would take one of mine and put it on there. And every time I play Devotion to the Empire, I get to put another one on there. I don't get it when I buy it, but whenever I deploy it or use the tactic card, I get to put them on there. Then on a future turn, or anytime I want, I can take one or more of these tokens off for the benefit that is on these cards. And these benefits are amazing. Look at this one here. This one, for each token I remove from the Merchant Alliance, I can subtract 3 from the deploy cost of a unit. Here, I can get rid of them to draw 3 more cards. Here, to take 2 more energy. Here, to add +2 to fleet strength or ground strength. Over here, in the Galactic Senate, I get an extra action. And then my favorite, the Science Guild, I can subtract 3 from the draft cost of cards in the middle. And so I really like the Science Guild and Merchant Alliance because they let you draft those bigger units and get them out faster. This is a very simple addition to the game. It will make you sometimes buy cards that you weren't thinking about buying as much just because they have that symbol. And you can also save these tokens for maybe closer to the end rounds of the game when you really need them. They also basically make the game easier in a sense that you have more cards, more actions, more energy, more strength. So is the game too easy? Oh, well, what else did they add? The expansion also added cards, more draft cards, more cards in each of the 5 different categories. But as they added these cards, there's a new kind of card that's included in the game called the event card. Now, as you're playing with these cards, and if you notice they have those 2 dots at the bottom, that's to show you that it's from that expansion. And there's some really neat stuff there. Look at that. New World, a Warp Fighter, an Assassin unit. We have Divine Energy, the Argo, some really cool stuff. And you'll find that the artwork is just as superb as it was in the beginning. These are some cool things. But there's these events. So when you're drawing events during each round, and there's a good chance of you drawing a lot of them. There's a lot of events in each of the decks. You will put them to the side, and only the last event you draw counts. In fact, if you don't draw any events over a round, then the previous event will come into play. So for example here, there's a change in leadership. Each player may choose to discard a hero from his hand or war zone. Each player who does not discard a hero loses an action point. Most of the events are negative like this. Most of the events have some kind of negative thing. For example here, each player immediately loses energy. Each player with more than 3 units in his war zone must immediately discard 1 unit of his choice from his war zone. So these things aren't great, but they are counteracted, as I said before, by being able to put the tokens on those larger cards, the Galactic Order cards that just really, the events kind of balance that out. And also they give you a bit of uncertainty because you never know for sure what's going to come up next. The game also comes with a new Prestige card, and I should mention that there are a lot of these cards that are involved in the game have to do with these tokens. For example, the Trinidad here is +1 grain strength for each faction token in the Merchant Alliance. So that will cause you to buy more of these cards with the Merchant Alliance in them. There's a lot of cards that have to do with that. Here, when you draft this one, you may immediately place one of your faction tokens on the Galactic Order of your choice. So there's a lot of uses that these cards have. There's also a new core world, Raven, which is an 8/8, and it's +1 Empire point for each of your faction tokens on a single Galactic Order card of your choice. And since Raven isn't mentioned on everyone's cards, the game gives you a little token to put on those cards. Now, I don't know what to think about that. I thought, well, I'll glue them on, but then that would be kind of awkward, and so whatever, I just place it there. But now there is an extra core world to go for. In fact, the rules have a new kind of joint council, and the players that I've gone over this with are very divided over this Consuls of the Empire variant. Basically, that says if you're going for one of the core worlds and someone else gets it before you do, and you can get it on the next turn, you can do so, and you both get the victory points for that. You put one of your tokens on it to show that you also jointly rule that world with that team. And that kind of splits it between the two of you. You both get points for that. Some players like that because turn order can really mess you up at the end of the game. Other players think that's kind of hooey, and if you get it first, you get it first. The game also includes another starting deck, so you can have a new hero, Empress Ilona, and this does not allow you to play with 6 players. In fact, you should not be playing with 5 players. This is a really great 3-player or 4-player game. 4-player game's a little longer than 3. But anyhow, that just gives you more variety. But it also includes a new, well, let's talk about the planet first. It has new planets it includes for all the worlds. The new planets, all they do is basically they add a new draw phase. Basically, if your worlds that you have in front of you is greater than the number of deployed units, you get to draw a card, which is pretty nice. It keeps players from keeping too many units deployed between turns because you're going to smash the next world, but at the same time, you still might want to do that. But if you don't, then you'll be able to draw a card. And you can still discard 2 cards for energy. But this game also includes this city card. Everyone starts with one of these, a capital city, that's on your home planet. And this is kind of a setup for future expansions where you'll be able to have cities that attach to planets. But this one basically says if you have 3 or more worlds in your empire, you may place 1 card from your hand beneath the capital city. So it's a way to take a card out of your hand that you're not going to use much anymore, and you can stick it under there. It still counts as part of your deck. Like you could during the original game, you could put a snub fighter or one of your regular troopers. Actually, the game has now changed that rule to let you put any card under a conquered planet. And so that, to me, makes the game much better. It's thematic to garrison a world, but at the same time, it lets you get rid of cards out of your deck. So those are basically the different changes that are included in the game. The biggest thing is going to be the Galactic Order cards, but there's also the bigger box, another faction, a new core world, etc. I very much enjoyed the Core Worlds expansion Galactic Orders. The Galactic Orders, most of the changes are minor. The extra faction, the cities to put on planets, the new cards, all that stuff is cool, but doesn't really warrant the expansion. These Galactic Order cards, though, on the other hand, these are pretty nifty. I really enjoyed them. I really liked the variety that it gives you. You can say, oh, I'm going to play this card just to put tokens on this, and you can pull off some pretty cool turns. You're like, oh, well, this turn I'm going to draw 6 extra cards. I have 4 extra energy and a couple extra actions, and I'm going to just nail it. Or this turn, I'm going to buy that giant thing that normally would cost 9, but I'm buying it for 3. And then I'm going to deploy this thing that would normally cost 8, deploying it for 2. Come on, now it's time to conquer the world. That's fun. You got to keep those events in mind. The events aren't devastating. They're more like annoying type events, which is fine. And I can see some people not liking the events as much, but everyone that I played with has really enjoyed these. It's just a nice addition to the game and helps take Core Worlds from being a deck building game that's like other deck building games, which it wasn't really to begin with, but when you add these, it's now something completely different. I like Core Worlds. I will say that the addition of these plus the events has, as I said when I was going over the overview, you definitely do not want to play this with 5 players at this point. It's too long, too much going on. Even 4 players, the options can be overwhelming because there's a lot of things to do. I still think Core Worlds is a good 4-player game, but a great 3-player one. Good artwork, cool new things. They replaced a few cards in the original set, just clarified some of the older cards. The new box is okay. Like I said, I'm going to still store things in bags because I want to keep the tokens, the worlds, all in a bag for that faction. But it's cool. It's great. It's good expansion. In fact, it's one of the best expansions of the year. This hasn't been a stellar year for game expansions, but there have been some good ones, and this one is a lot of fun. This is one that I would even teach people who've played Core Worlds in the past, or who've never played Core Worlds in the past. I would throw this expansion in because I don't think it's that difficult to learn. So, Core Worlds Galactic Orders. Woohoo!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door.